In 300 BC, Chanakya wrote that just as you cannot say any fish who's moving whether it is drinking water or not, same way you cannot say whether your staff is taking money or not unless you build the right systems to find out. He then listed 40 different ways a treasury can be robbed from inside, and at least 10 of them is applicable to your restaurant right now. I was working with a client 2 years back, and when we were preparing the P&L, just tallying the cash flows, looking at how the cash inflow and outflow is happening, I suspected something. There was a slight gap between POS sales and cash collected during that day, and when I discussed with the owner, surprisingly he was already aware, and he said that I know there is a tiny gap, so the cashier possibly is taking 20-30 rupees every day. He's just trying to manage some pocket change, and that's okay for me. I do not even want to investigate that further. Fine. When the audit was completed, the number was not 30-40 rupees per day or less than 100 rupees per day. It was more than 1000 per day. On some days it was 1700-1800. It was happening every single day and since months. And it's not that owner was not aware. He was already aware. He thought it's a small problem. The cashier was not doing anything complicated. During rush hour, you just used to pocket one or two bills, a little extra, a little add in, not accounted for. So just small change, cash in, cash out. It never entered the system. So the modus operandi was clear and it was not very complicated, and owner was also aware. He just had the numbers wrong because he never validated his assumption. And this video is not about finding hidden problems in your restaurant, but it is about rather knowing that the problem exists but you are underestimating the magnitude. 2300 years ago, Chanakya built the Maurya Empire from scratch. He was the main person behind Chandragupta Maurya. And he also wrote Arthashastra, arguably one of the best books ever written on statecraft, economics, organizational behavior, and everything surrounding that. He wrote this line which stayed with me: just as fish in the moving water, you cannot say whether it is drinking or not. It is almost impossible to find out. Same way, government servants, it is almost impossible to find out whether they are stealing from treasury or not. He is not saying that all employees are thieves. He is not saying all government servants, they have that vindicative nature or they don't have integrity. Rather, what he is saying, structure of the system makes it almost inevitable for people who may want to take advantage from time to time. It's just like a fish which is swimming in water. There is water everywhere. So when does a fish decide whether to drink a little bit of that or not? So it is all about putting a complete detection system around this so that you are able to prevent this situation. And then he catalogued 40 different ways a treasury can be robbed from inside. And it's not that kings were not aware about it, kings were not thinking that there could be theft in the treasury, but it is all about probably they underestimated the ingenuity of the schemes, or they underestimated the quantum of theft which is happening inside the treasury. He created the system on how to detect those 40 methods. And that is what I am about to tell you with respect to restaurant operation. And there is a second logic. Most of the time, cash was never king's first priority. His first priority was, well-being of the subject. Same analogy. In your restaurant, when you are there on the floor, what is your first priority? Take care of the customers, serve them good food, good service. Cash is not your first priority. You always believe that cash will be well accounted for. And that is where you need to watch this video till the end, because I'm going to tell you how do you create systems which stop such leakages. And this is how it actually happens. Some days you may find there is a little gap between what POS is saying and what cash you are collecting. And then the cashier will say, sir, this guy did not have change, so I paid 50 rupees from my own pocket. So I have just written it down. Tomorrow I will adjust this. Fine, it's okay. It happens at times, especially when you collect a lot of cash instead of UPI or card. Happens. It can happen once a week, it can happen, twice a week. And slowly you see some rounding errors, some 3 rupees not matching, some 7 rupees not matching. And you just ignore it. Fine, who will keep counting those coins? So let it go. You decide to let it go. And then you stop looking at the reconciliation statement. And when you stop looking at reconciliation statement, the gap is no longer 3 rupees. It grows to 10, it grows to 20, it grows to 50. And there is no limit up to what it can grow because you are not looking at it anymore. And the cashier here is not a criminal mastermind. He just found out the loophole that when there is a rush hour, customer do not insist for bill. One loophole. There are similar other loopholes. One of them is the owner is not so particular about this loose change, little bit of differences. As long as mota the figures are tallying, he's okay with it. And this is what Chanakya says. The moment you say it's a small amount, you let it go, you actually stop looking, and whatever you stop looking will only grow in future. Chanakya listed 40 methods, but when it comes to restaurant, broadly we can classify them under 4 different categories. I will tell you the 4 categories. Within each category there could be multiple ways in which it can happen. So I'm just giving you 4 broad areas where it is possible, and that is where you have to actually check. The first area is where it is manipulation of time. So it can happen during your opening hour, it can happen during your closing few orders, it can happen during rush hour. The typical method is, there is order delivered but the bill not generated. So because the bill is not generated, the cash is unaccounted for. It can happen with the whole order, it can happen with one item in the order, it can happen with add-on, it can happen with extras. So there are multiple ways it can happen, but essentially order delivered, kitchen did all the effort but the cash is not accounted for. The second is more about amount misrepresentation or item misrepresentation. Sometimes you are just selling a pure and simple margarita pizza, and you build it for margarita pizza, but you are giving him a all loaded veggie extravaganza, something like that, fully loaded pizza. So there is a difference in terms of value, and that value is unaccounted for. So the first problem was one item was billed, one item was not accounted. Here one item is billed, one item is accounted, but the item billed and item accounted are different in terms of value. This is the second method, how it frequently happens. And these type of things are very difficult to detect even if you have a foolproof KOT system in place. Third is more a classification error. So sometimes what happens, whatever staff is consuming, they have accounted this as wastage. So as a result, your food cost will increase, and you will never know the correct scenario. And to some extent, I think this is still acceptable. At least staff is eating it. The problem is when staff starts selling it to your competition from your store and it is accounted as wastage. And don't get surprised, I have seen multiple instances like that. And the fourth is when they start conniving with the suppliers. So supplier bills you for 10 kg chicken. He actually delivered 8 kg chicken, and because the guy at the store and the supplier, they have a tie-up in the back end, so that 2 kg is what you are paying extra without ever being aware about it, right? So 4 different ways. There are multiple others, but I'm just talking about these 4 primary methods in which your treasury can be robbed from inside and you are not aware about it, or you decided to ignore it. Chanakya being Chanakya, he just did not diagnose the system, but he also prescribed a detection mechanism. The detection mechanism, the first of it is, you may ignore the difference, but never stop doing reconciliation. Please understand, the size of problem is small only when you keep on looking at it. So if the difference between POS and cash is 7 rupees, fine, you ignore it, but insist on reconciliation statement. Not weekly, not monthly, on a daily basis. So Unless you know what is the quantum of problem, do not ever take a decision whether to ignore or to pursue it. That's point number one. So even when you decide, okay, fine, boys, little bit here and there, I can tolerate that, I can live with that. Always insist on reconciliation. Point number two is what Chanakya says, element of surprise. Never be predictable in terms of your own behavior, in terms of timing, in terms of frequency, in terms of nature of items which you will check. Some day you just go and check the freezer, find out what is happening, tally it with the what is reported in the inventory. There will be surprises. Some days you don't do anything, just sit in front of CCTV, just look at the camera which is monitoring the cashier for 2 hours. Observe his behavior when you are not there. See what he does. With respect to vendors, just arrive unannounced on a specific day. Take a random item, check the weight, match it with the delivery challan or whatever receipt he had given you. Later on, match it with the invoice when he gives you. That's a 3-point check. You have goods received, you have amount requested or purchase order, and then you have amount billed for, which is invoice. Do a random 3-point check for any one particular item, any one particular day. Keep doing that. If that's a common practice when vendor is conniving with your staff and robbing you, probably you will find out in less than 30 days if you just start doing random sampling. And I'm telling you only those methods which do not require any software, which do not require any technology, because these were mentioned 2300 years back. Chanakya already mentioned it. It just needs discipline, it just needs perseverance, it just needs your own will in order to pursue that. Let me come back to the cashier. He is not the villain in this story. He is just an employee who found a gap in the system and he exploited the gap. The system allowed him to do that. The mistake on the owner's side is thinking that 50 rupees per day is acceptable. He allowed that to slide and he stopped looking. And that's where things started growing in terms of magnitude. And I want to ask you a very direct question. What number are you tolerating? Nothing is perfect in the world. In your restaurant also, everything is not perfect. You have level of tolerance at some places here and there, that this is acceptable, I can let this go this time. Which number, which area are you tolerating right now? And the question which you need to ask, are you tolerating after knowing what is the gap, or have you stopped looking? So whatever reports told you that there is a gap, do not stop the report. Run the report on a regular basis, run it on a daily basis. Because Chanakya was right, you cannot catch the fish drinking the water unless you build a system to check that. Hi, my name is Randhir and this is Restaurant Niti, ancient Indian wisdom applied to your restaurant. Next week, next video, we will learn what Vidur had to say about expansion strategy for restaurants.